Hello everyone, a little something different today for your weekend. If you have some time off, I suggest you check out a new documentary. Just came out fairly recently. You can grab it on Amazon, digitally on Prime, or it's on DVD or Blu-ray. If you are within a certain age demographic, it is a must-see documentary. This is The Orange Years, the Nickelodeon story. It is phenomenal. I thought it was incredible. My wife watched it with me. She loved it. I showed it to my mom. A bunch of friends I know have seen it thanks to my recommendation and things, and everyone so far said the same thing. It is incredibly well done, well structured, a great presentation, and it's very, very professional and well thought out and detailed at a little over an hour and 40 minutes long. It is just such a great comprehensive look at a specific window in time with Nickelodeon. And it goes through the history of Nickelodeon from its inception all the way until when things very much changed at the very tail end of the 90s, beginning of 2000s. The turn of the century, Nickelodeon, obviously Nickelodeon's still around, but it's very much a different company. And it explains why, for a period of slightly over a decade, just in that window of time, Nickelodeon was a huge cultural force, particularly in the United States. I can't speak to areas outside of that, but just within my own frame, within the United States, especially Universal Studios with Nickelodeon being down there, and this whole era of Nickelodeon from the very end of the 80s to the very end of the 90s was a phenomenon. It really was something that consistently had over 50, 60s, sometimes as high as 70% market share for viewers in a certain age demographic, especially elementary and like middle school age into early high school. Just some of the greatest programming for those age groups came from Nickelodeon within that time frame, and it really goes into great detail of how it evolved. It takes a story of how it evolved from its inception, something very, very different and very small, to how it grew, how it evolved step by step into what it became with the evolution of Nickelodeon, and how that changed, and the logo changing and the themes changing, and how it very specifically targets certain age groups with different types of programming, and the SNCC and the inception of Nick Jr. in the beginning of that era, and just goes through everything. It does a phenomenal job, and it really shows why this was such an important institution for a generation. It's something that if you were outside that window, Nickelodeon might not be as big of a deal. It's just another TV channel with some kids programming. But if you were born in the early to mid 80s through, I'd say, the very early 90s, there was a period of time where Nickelodeon was just huge. And I was situated so perfectly in that age demographic. My wife was the same way. We were born 9 months apart. The same thing, to where when Nickelodeon kind of got its act together and figured out what it wanted to be, was right when we were hitting elementary school age. And as soon as they changed to adding to, in the next stage of their evolution, adding programming targeted at certain age demographics or groups, to where maybe there wasn't a lot of programming for that age group, where it was programming towards teens or towards kids, but there was a developmental stage in your preteens when you're just kind of entering, end of elementary school, beginning of middle school, where you're kind of in between, and there wasn't a lot for that. Well, they started coming up with answers for that right at the same time I was turning around 11, 12. So getting right into that, stage yet again. It was definitely just very important for myself and my wife and pretty much all of my peers, because of when we grew up. And if you are in that age demographic, this is something you should check out. In general, if you like the history of television, if you enjoy learning about the evolution of media through the 20th century, if you have any of those kind of interests, you're still going to really enjoy it. But if you are within that age demographic to where you were a kid during the so-called orange years, you are going to devour this, you're going to love it, and you're going to watch through it multiple times. It is fantastic. It is so well done. I'm incredibly happy with this, and that's why I had to come on here and mention it. I had to go ahead and promote it, because this blew away my already fairly high expectations, just because I had this expectation of a great nostalgia kick, and it was so much more than that. It was a great in-depth insight into the behind the scenes, the culture, the creation and evolution of Nickelodeon through my childhood years.